Hello, welcome to another of my pipe smoking videos. You join me on a Saturday evening, the day before this goes out, and just as a matter of interest, I am trying something a bit different, which I shall tell you about. You may have already noticed it, I don't know, who knows? But I'm going to smoke Al. This was sent to us by Albert some months ago now, and he sent us two pipes. One is called Bert and this one is called Al from Albert. And I am on Rattray's Black Mallory tobacco tonight, and I'm almost finished actually. I can't remember, I think I was just on a sort of odds and ends last week. But let's get him going. This is a nice old smoker. I do like this. Thank you so much to Albert again for sending it. You get a good long smoke because it's a deep old bowl, which is rather lovely. So we'll just fill him up, get him all typed up. And as you know, I'm constantly losing my tampers. And so I've got a make, do and mend tamper, which is just a piece of wood, which I happen to find, and using, funnily enough, a bill hook, I carefully got rid of the bark, squared it up a bit, and it's just a piece of wood. But I don't necessarily need to have something that's shop bought, and I like the natural nature of it. So that's what it is. And worst comes to the worst, you can always chew on it. Not that you would want to, really. So let's get this lit. I've also got myself in my Harriet pipe mug, a Harriet pipe coffee. He doesn't make the coffee, but that would be great, wouldn't it? Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for the coffee. He's in the kitchen working ever so hard in between making those delightful and delicious pipes. Just as a matter of interest, if you have not checked in with Chris Harriet from Harriet Pipes, you are really missing something at the moment. He is, I mean, I know he says he doesn't like to call himself an artiste or an artist, but he is becoming a master craftsman. You should see some of the freehand pipes that he's doing. He's been working with a chap, I think the oldest, longest established or something like that, pipe maker, Danish pipe maker, Tom, I forget his name now, and I'm going to get slapped for that. Sorry, Chris. But he's a very lovely chap, and he's been making these freehand pipes where you follow the grain. That is what defines the shape of the bowl. Check out Harriet Pipes on YouTube and what have you. And his pipes, I have to say, he had an apple up. I saw it earlier today on his video, and it was a freehand apple, and it was to die for, basically. And I have left a comment to Chris saying, I want you to commission you one. But he said it's very much, of course, the block of wood and the grain that really defines the shape. So it may be, depending on the cost, that I'll have to commission him to take the best. Now, I think somebody like Chris, who watches these videos, he's a great judge of character, he's a great judge of face. He can see what suits somebody, and I would be more than happy to leave it in his hands to create something. I do like the saddle. I think it's called a saddle stem. Quite like that with a curve, but a subtle curve. It doesn't have to be a massive Sherlock Holmes bent thing. But then that's kind of my thing. This isn't though. This is, I don't know whether you'd call that a poker. Is it a poker? It's just a square. It's a right angle thing, but it's very nice. Let's get it going and get some smoke billowing around. This is quite a mild old tobacco. I've been smoking it. Now the thing with me is I'll pick up a tin of tobacco. Always adventurous to try something new. Scary, picking my nose here. There's something itchy up there, and always adventurous to try something new and see what it's like. And then I tend to just smoke the same thing all the way through, as you know. And as you know, that what that does is at first you may be a bit unsure, but the palette is an amazing thing. It takes its time. Sorry, my temper is rolling down across the sofa here. The palette takes its time to work out. This isn't, it is, you can clench it, but it does get heavy. And with a cup of coffee, you're all right, aren't you, eh? So, what do you think of the sound quality? I'm interested. Some people have said that they like the way I light the videos. Some people said that, you know, they're super quality. I would disagree with that, of course. I mostly knock my videos together, but many of you will be going, yeah, we know that. But what I'm not doing, I don't use my phone, and this isn't a criticism of anybody who makes their videos in that way, of course, but I love photography, and I grew up using old-fashioned photography. I was very dubious of digital photography, and to a certain degree I still am, particularly when everything is done on automatic, because it kind of, in a way, it takes away the joy, the experimentation, the fun of playing about. But anyway, so I just for the record, I have a light over there, which is a very soft light, and it's there to simulate light bouncing off the room, reflected light coming into my face. And you'll see that down this side is a harsher light, which is my key light, as it were, the source of light, which could be from because I'm inside and you can see there's a little light on here, it's unlikely that I'd be sitting by a window. But if it was to emulate a window, that would be what that light would be doing, would be emulating the sun coming through the window. But in a situation like this, it's really just emulating another light source, an internal light source, which might be, I don't know, a standard lamp or a wall lamp or something like that, an inside lamp. And then I do actually have a domestic lamp above me here, which is a nice reading lamp if I'm sitting and reading, and the practical, as they call it, which is that one there, which just adds a bit of interest to the background. And that's really all that's going on. So there's nothing really special. I'm not spending any extra time. And this is my basic lighting setup that I use all the time. So I mainly use 2 lights, but people can use 3, and particularly, sorry, very itchy nose. If you have somebody with hair, you might want to stick a light behind, and they call that a rim light, I think, to get the light shining behind, but you don't want to see the source. Of course, I'm very interested on these videos that you can see the smoke. And so what I would do normally is backlight the smoke so it was a bit better lit. Now, hang on a minute, let's see if I can demonstrate that. I'm just knocking a few boxes over here. Yeah, the other thing is, you only see what I want you to see. You don't see the mess, because the art, of course, is in the composition. What I was going to do, and knock my comedy hat over, is if I bring this light in here, you'll see it makes a big difference. You can see it now, but look, hang on. See the difference on the smoke when you backlight it. So really and truly, I ought to have another light there, so it backlights the smoke. But I'm compromising today. I'm compromising. You can still get a bit of backlight there. Hang on, let's just turn that. Anyway, I had it all right to begin with. Stop messing about, Mr. Vobes. Oh, not Mr., just Richard. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about, really, in the experiment that I'm doing is, in the filming thing, is I'm using some different radio mics. And I'm hoping that I'm not over-modulating, i.e. distorted. And I'm hoping the sound is pretty interesting. These are, just for the sake of telling you, I'm not paid by. I bought these probably 2 years ago and I haven't used them. This is crazy, isn't it? These are DJI microphones. DJI, beg your pardon. And just by opening this little box, I've set off a second microphone in here, which is this one here, so that 2 people can wear it. Turn that off for now. Hopefully it's still recording. And this is one here somewhere. The microphones that I normally use, perfectly good ones, by Rode, R-O-D-E. You may not be interested in all this technical stuff, but I just thought it would be quite interesting to explain a little bit about how I film. Now, the reason I got these out, I hadn't really tried them at all. I bought them, but I'm so used to using the Rode, which are very simple, clip on and away you go. You can add a microphone, a lapel microphone if you want to, and what have you, but I'm just so used to using those, I'd never got round to them. So these were sort of my emergency go-to if ever I needed to. And then the other day I was doing some filming. My partner, am I in focus again? Have I lost the focus? This is the trouble, this camera may have lost the focus. Fiddling with the lights. It's, I can never tell from over here. I've only got one eye. I'm short-sighted. Let me just press a button there to make sure there's a little focus thing around it. It's very difficult when you are actually in the video and you're trying to do all the sort of cinematic-y type stuff at the same time, and the viewfinder is a titchy little thing. Trying to keep your pipe alight. Keeps going out. There we go. And you're waffling on at the same time. I'm sure you all have the same issues with one thing and another. Anyway, yes, I was filming. Julia's dad is a keen filmmaker. And he was telling me he'd bought the updated version of these, which are even smaller. And they sounded really good. And I thought, actually, he reminded me, I thought, actually, I've got a pair of those, but the earlier version, I must get them out and try them myself. And so here I am, giving it a whirl. And if it works, the great thing about these is there's 2 units, 2 microphones, as I mentioned before, and the receiver, which sits on the camera. But I don't know if you can see the little lights here. You put them in the box and you just plug in your USB cable into the box. It charges them both in one go. It's very useful. Whereas my other microphones, I have to charge them independently. It's a bit of a fag, but I've been doing it all that time. Time for a slab of coffee, I think. Anyway, that was just a bit of a load of old rubbish, wasn't it? But it's always interesting how people do these videos. I do want to do more out and about ones. And when I first started with the idea of doing these videos, I thought, if I was travelling around, it would be great to be able to be in quintessentially English places. One of the places that we were at was this beautiful village in the Cotswolds. We just happened to be, and at the time I hadn't got my pipe with me, and I hadn't really thought about it. I don't think I'd had my camera with me. And there was this river, this stream, or it was a bit of a river stream, whatever, between the two, going through the village with this wonderful old stone bridge, and beyond some beautiful old, I suppose, being the Cotswolds elliptic limestone buildings. And I thought, and it was a cold morning, and I thought, on a crisp, cold morning with the sun just coming up, standing on the bridge in a sort of pose, puffing a pipe, would just be that sort of quintessentially English 1940s sort of look. Wouldn't have to be 1940s, but that sort of, you know, I like that style. And then to sit perhaps on the parapet of the bridge, or to lean nonchalantly on the parapet of the bridge and then talk to you would be a lovely thing. And then, of course, you'd go around and find different places. So you could stand by I don't know, in Wiltshire, for example, by a big sarsen stone, one of these standing stones, and again, stand there, trilby hat or what have you, pipe, and have a chat. And that was an idea. And if you could do that at different times of day as well, can you imagine? It'd be very, you know, and then you set the camera and you get the focus length right. And it could be very, very beautiful to watch, because it's not practical at all unless you're being paid. And this channel is not monetized at all, and I do this for fun. And it's nice just to sit down and have a chin chat with you, really, once a week. I was going to do this twice a week. A few people said, "Oh, can you not do more of them?" But I really can't at the moment. What with everything else going on at the moment, Julia and I are in the process of buying some land. Well, we're still waiting for the solicitors to do their thing, and by golly, they make you jump through hoops. They want to see your bank statements because they say, "Oh, well, you might be laundering money." So we've got these anti-laundering money rules, and I hadn't the faintest idea how you launder money. At one time, I inadvertently left my wallet in my pocket, and it went through the washing machine. That's about as much as laundering money that I can get to, I'm afraid. So buying a small patch of land from a little bit of inheritance money that's been sitting there for a while, they're sort of prying into your private life, just so you can buy a little bit of something and sit there in on the weekends when you're not working or not doing things, or try and grow some vegetables and things like that. Which is what we want to do, and just be with a bit of nature, escape the town for a while, and just visit and let the family come along, the kids, the grandchildren, that sort of thing, and run around and just take it easy. Because I haven't had a garden. I've been in this house for 30 years. I haven't got a garden, nothing to speak of. I mean, the garden is like, I suppose, 15 foot long, and mostly it has logs stacked up. And a bit of a shed, which has junk in it. You see, I don't have a loft. When we moved in, we had a tiny space. We put stuff in, and the main joint going across the house cracked down. That was, I say we moved in, I meant my ex-wife and I. And so then we had to have that repaired. That cost an arm and a leg at the time for somebody not earning very much money. And they said, "Oh no, you can't put stuff up here. It will just fall to bits." So in the end, there's just stuff in rooms and then junk in the shed. So, you know, somebody came and sort of went rifling through the shed thinking, "Ha-ha, old Vobes has got some valuable stuff in the shed." Well, I don't have anything valuable at all, really, apart from my pipes. All the valuable stuff I have is of value to me, but no value to anybody else. But if they want junk, the shed's full of it. So yeah, so that's how did I get onto that? No idea. Yeah, so that's what we're doing with the land. Anyway, that's what we want to do. We're just trying to wait for it to happen so we can actually access it and do things. But we'll do some videoing on the English couple. Oh, the other thing I should update you with is the book that I have been working on, my Biggleswick book, the town that wouldn't comply. That is imminently going to the printers now to be printed. I've decided I'm not going to put it on Amazon. I don't want it to go to these big corporations. I'd rather pay a small business, independent business, to print the book in the way that a publisher would normally print, any ordinary book rather than an Amazon book. That does mean that I'm going to end up here with boxes of books, and I'm rather hoping that people will be interested in buying them. Now, I appreciate people watching this who, unless you happen to watch my other channel, will not have the faintest really idea of what it's about. And I understand that, and you may not want to buy it, and that's, the decision is yours, of course. The book that I was hoping to write, that you guys might want to read, has turned into a novel, and the last month or so, I haven't had a chance to do any writing. So I'm well behind. I was hoping to at least have it ready for Christmas, but that's not going to happen. It's more now. It's a fiction again. I love fiction. I think it's a good medium for telling not only stories, obviously, but for telling interesting things that you can get in, facts and things that you can put in. And you can have characters pro and against, But so it's turned into a bit of a novel of really, it's more of a story about people who do smoke pipes rather than specifically about the pipe, which is a shame in one respect. But sometimes when you're writing, especially when you're writing characters and the characters become more real to you, they start telling you where the story is going. They actually become real in the author's head. I've heard this from many other authors, and they've tried to sort of dictate the story, and they said, well, this is what I wanted the plot to do, but it's not gone that way at all. It's funny, isn't it? And when that happens, you do ask yourself, well, what is real then? Because ultimately everything's in the mind, isn't it? Really, we experience everything through our mind. We think we're in a real world, and everything appears real, and we think we can touch it, but everything comes through the senses to our mind. And so in some respects, the things we think about and the characters that we invent, or the programs that we watch, or the books that we read while we're reading, or the dreams that we have, are just as real in one way as the sort of humdrum, let's say, of ordinary life, of everyday, what we might call real life. And it's not always humdrum. It's not really humdrum for me. And there are a lot of people who, you watch them, and their lives certainly aren't humdrum. And I suppose that's why we watch them, isn't it? Like Father John, fascinating to see him in his environment there, with his hot tub and his house and his cat, his mad cat, and Chris, good old Chris Herriot, making his amazing pipes and watching his development. And of course there's Jonathan, Piper X1X, who's been diagnosed with something, and he sort of disappeared and has been down, and people have been supporting him, which is fantastic to see. And then he's back, letting everybody know that he's here. These are real characters, they're real people. And what I like is they're interesting. They're characters with stories and lives that have been lived. And Chris may be quite young still, but he's done things. Some people don't do anything with their lives, do they? It's very sad. They kind of go to work and they come home, and 40 years later they get a carriage clock, and you think, what was that all about? But not everybody wants to do things or be adventurous, some people are just quite happy to bob along. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's got their own course of life, of course. And that's the way it is, isn't it? And sometimes I have to say I'm quite envious of that sort of mindset, really, of not worrying. I think when I was young, I was so passionate about having a career in television or film. I'm glad I never did. Not with what they all stand for now. It's a shame because the medium is fascinating. I love the process and everything, but Hollywood and all of that and the mainstream media have kind of wrecked it. They've ruined it, really. And now it would be very reprehensible to go into that profession. But when you realise what goes on behind the scenes and how it's full of egos and people backstabbing one another and the money that people go and the all of that, that's quite mercenary. And I experienced that when I did do a bit of children's television. I very much experienced that with Scottish television. That's I've told that story on one of my videos, but I will happily tell it again in the future if you're interested. Anyway, I think I better go. I probably bored you senseless with today's one, but enjoying the pipe. But I've got my eye on one of Chris's pipes, if I can afford it. I do actually like this tobacco. It's grown on me. And just to remind you, it's Rattray's Black Mallory tobacco. So look it up, see what you think. I don't think Chris was terribly impressed when I told him what was in it, but everybody has different tastes. Anyway, I hope the audio's been all right. I should go and edit this now and upload it ready for tomorrow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.